pace is silent, but panic screams across the Empire. A human warship, black, silent, colossal, appears in a forbidden sector no species dares enter. No warning. No hail. No mercy. The Galactic Council demands answers. Why is a Terran dreadnought in the right sector? The answer? Humans don't follow maps. We redraw them. The void swallowed the obsidian lance whole, its black armor devouring light as it slipped through forbidden space. Commander Darius Holt stood at the warship's obsidian-plated command dais, arms folded, a cold smirk ghosting his scarred face. Around him, the bridge crew worked in tense silence under the pale glow of crimson battle monitors. Range to target? Holt asked, his voice even, deadly calm. 70,000 clicks in closing, sir. Ensign Leung replied, barely disguising the tremor in her tone. Holt glanced at the view screen. The grotesque bulk of the Koveth scout frigate floated ahead, its long insected frame flanked by energy spikes and sensor tendrils twitching like antennae seeking prey. The emblem of the Koveth Dominion, a blood-red claw raking a world, glared defiantly from its hull. Let's introduce ourselves. Holt nodded. Target their communications array. Precision shot. Make them sweat. The bridge darkened as the lance's spinal gun charged. A low bass hum built to a gut-shaking growl. Firing solution locked. Fire. The beam lanced through the abyss like a scythe. The Koveth vessel's array detonated in a violent cascade, fragmenting into molten debris that drifted uselessly in vacuum. The enemy vessel jerked erratically, panicked thrusters firing as it tried to turn tail. Now they'll call for help. Holt murmured, eyes hard. Perfect. As expected, the Koveth Warcom channel flared open, garbled screeches and commands translating into a shrill chorus of confusion. Holt waited, letting the dread settle. A deep, guttural voice finally overrode the noise. Unidentified warship. You have trespassed into sovereign Koveth territory. Power down and prepare to be boarded. You have 1 cycle to comply. Holt leaned forward slightly. Patch me through. The crew froze, knowing what was coming. The channel crackled. This is Admiral Vorinx Zaltor of the Koveth Dominion. Respond, 8 vessel. Holt's voice hit like cold iron. This is Commander Darius Holt of the Earth Coalition warship Obsidian Lance. I'm exactly where I want to be. Your mistake was thinking this sector was yours to forbid. Silence, then a hissing snarl. Primitive mammal. Your insolence will be your epitaph. Holt cut the line with a flick of his finger. Time to vanish. The lance slipped effortlessly into phased cloak mode. Its form shimmered, then disappeared from both sensors and sight. The Koveth ship's scanners whined uselessly into the void. Sir, long-range scans detect multiple warp signatures inbound. Sizable fleet. 12 capital-class warships and supporting vessels. Exactly as planned. Holt allowed himself a razor-thin smile. Begin GhostNet protocol. Throughout the void, relay drones launched silently from concealed hatches, their compact stealth frames scattering across the sector. As they activated, false Terran warship signatures multiplied across enemy sensors. Dozens became hundreds. A junior officer gasped. Sir, they'll think we brought an entire fleet. That's because they're arrogant enough to believe numbers make them safe. Holt said coldly. Alarms blared. Enemy ships decelerated violently out of slip space, monstrous dreadnoughts shaped like monstrous insects, hulls bristling with weapons, their curved armor pulsing ominously in the dark. Contact from flagship, the Koveth Reaper. Admiral Vorinx again. Holt gestured. Let him speak. The voice came, thick with barely restrained fury. So the Terrans have sent their entire fleet to die here. We will oblige. Holt's reply was soft, cruel. You miscounted. Static crackled. There's only one of me. The comms cut to stunned silence. Holt's hands tightened behind his back. Prep torpedoes. Lock targeting arrays on their lead formation. Prioritize engines and weapon mounts. Disable, don't destroy. Let them crawl. The lance shuddered as its payloads launched silently into the black. Seconds later, the forward dreadnought of the Koveth line erupted into a blooming fireball, its engine severed from its massive spine. Panic rippled visibly through the enemy formations. Enemy ships breaking ranks, Leung whispered in disbelief. They think they're surrounded. Holt's voice dripped with acid satisfaction. Good. He tapped a control on the command console. Now let's introduce them to Deathworlder hospitality. From the Lance's underbelly, boarding torpedoes fired, sleek and needle-sharp, slamming into the bellies of stunned Koveth cruisers. The detonation of cutting charges echoed faintly back to the Lance. On board, Sergeant Leon Brick Maddox tightened his grip around a combat shotgun, breath fogging inside his reinforced helmet. His armor was battered, crude by galactic standards, but no less lethal. The hatch blew open. Koveth elite warriors surged forward, hissing war cries, their clawed limbs gleaming under harsh red emergency lights. Brick grinned savagely. Come on, lizard boys. Let's dance. The shotgun roared. The first alien's chest exploded into ragged ruin. Brick pivoted, driving an armored fist into another's throat, feeling cartilage collapse. Behind him, human marines swept through the corridors with ruthless precision, blades flashing, weapons barking. The Koveth were trained for domination. The humans fought like cornered animals, relentless, merciless, impossible to predict. Deck secured, Brick reported, panting amid steaming alien corpses. The Koveth flagship's admiral screamed into open channels. You savages defiled the codes of honorable war. Back on the Lance, Holt laughed, cold and sharp. Honor's a luxury for the living. Enemy fleet status? 4 vessels crippled, 2 more venting atmosphere, remainder in disarray. Maintain pressure. No survivors. The Koveth scrambled their remaining forces. In desperation, the Dominion broadcasted a sector-wide distress call to the Council. Holt allowed it. Let the galaxy watch. A communications officer turned. Commander, the Council channel is demanding explanation. They're asking the same question as the Dominion. Holt walked slowly to the viewport, watching another enemy cruiser vanish under precise railgun fire. Which question? The officer swallowed hard. Why is a human warship in the right sector? The stars reflected coldly in Holt's dark eyes. He smiled. Tell them. He paused, savoring the moment. Humans don't follow maps. We redraw them. The Obsidian Lance slid further into the graveyard sector as crippled Koveth vessels drifted aimlessly behind it, broken and silent. The hunt had only just begun. The sector was alive with chaos. Koveth warships spun wildly, weapons arcing into empty voids where Phantom Terran's signatures danced and vanished. The Obsidian Lance coasted silent and invisible, slipping between enemy lines like a shadow wearing steel. Commander Holt stood unflinching at the center of the storm, watching his trap work to perfection. Report, he snapped. Ensign Leung answered without looking up. 17 confirmed kills, Commander. 4 dreadnoughts disabled. 2 more drifting with critical system failures. Enemy formations are collapsing under the ghost net illusions. Holt's smirk deepened. Good. Let's see how their mighty Dominion doctrine handles complete disorientation. The bridge crackled as Admiral Voring's Saltor broadcast furiously across all frequencies. We see through your tricks, ape. You cannot hope to defeat the Dominion with cowards' tactics. Surrender, and we may grant your crew mercy. Holt tilted his head slightly, then keyed the response. You're mistaking strategy for cowardice, Admiral. A classic mistake for a species obsessed with appearances. The comms went dead. Holt's tactical officer chuckled bitterly. They didn't appreciate that, sir. They're not meant to. New alarm screamed. Dozens of Koveth boarding torpedoes streaked toward the Lance. Holt's eyes narrowed. They're desperate. Sergeant Maddox's voice came over internal comms, gruff and eager. Commander, we've got incoming lizard scum trying to breach the hull. Permission to greet them? Granted. Show them what hospitality means on a human warship. The corridors shook as the torpedoes struck. Hatches buckled. Welded steel screamed. The first wave of Koveth elites burst into the dark interior, hissing and howling. Claws flashed. They were met by a wall of fire. Maddox led from the front, shotguns spitting death in deafening bursts. The nearest alien's head detonated like overripe fruit. "Hold the line!" Maddox roared. Human Marines flanked him, forming kill corridors. A massive Kovath warrior charged through the hail of bullets, a plasma blade igniting in its talons. Maddox ducked under the swing, slammed the stock of his weapon into the alien's knee joint, and drove a combat knife deep into the exposed undercarriage of its armor. The creature shrieked, collapsing. Too slow, ugly. The deck became a slaughterhouse. Humans fought with brutal economy. Where the Kovath valued form and tradition, the Terran Marines were predators. One alien warrior lunged for a wounded Marine. Maddox yanked the wounded soldier backward, fired point blank into the attacker's chest, then kicked the corpse back into the advancing line. "Not today! Bridge, this is Maddox. They're coming hard, but we're holding. I need reinforcements on Deck 12. Negative, Holt replied flatly. We have bigger plans. Bleed them. Let them think they're winning. Then we close the jaws. Copy that, Maddox growled. More bodies for the pile. On the Lance's bridge, tactical holograms flickered. Enemy fleet elements shifted erratically. They couldn't distinguish real targets from the hundreds of false ones. Holt leaned forward, eyes cold as interstellar ice. Activate Phase 2. I want every relay drone spinning a new signature every 6 seconds. Increase signal bounce. The Kovath command channels erupted into utter chaos. Orders clashed. Units fired on each other. One cruiser vaporized its own escort. Another spiraled into a gravity eddy and was torn apart. Sir, we just made them start killing themselves, Leung whispered. Holt allowed a razor-thin smile. They never needed our help to lose. Just a nudge. Another calm burst arrived. Vorinx's voice now held a raw edge of panic beneath the bravado. Cease this madness. You defiled the ancient codes of warfare. Face us honorably in open formation. Holt answered with cruel mockery. Honor doesn't interest me. Survival does. A bridge officer turned, voice urgent. Commander, their flagship Kovath Reaper is moving to our last known position. It's going to try to force engagement. Let them. Holt straightened. Ready the spinal rail gun. Charge coil capacitors to full. A deadly hush fell across the bridge. The weapon had only been fired once. There were no survivors to tell the tale. Target lock acquired, Leung confirmed. Fire. The lance recoiled from the shot. The kinetic spike traveled at a fraction below light speed. A heartbeat later, the Reaper's forward armor crumpled inward as if punched by an angry god. Explosive decompression gutted the internal decks. The once mighty dreadnought twisted and drifted, crippled and broken. Admiral Vorinx is hailing us again. Holt walked slowly toward the console, gaze fixed on the burning ruin of the Kovath flagship. On screen, the alien admiral's image flickered into view, blood trickling from a gash across his brow. The Defiance was still there, barely. You, Terran abomination, you don't win this day. We will bring 10 times the force. 100. Holt's reply cut like a razor. You already brought your best. Look around you. The calm fell silent as the remains of the Dominion fleet burned, drifted, or fled in blind panic. Holt spoke calmly to his crew. Deploy shock drones. Cut off their retreat vectors. No survivors. Sergeant Maddox's voice came through once more, cold and savage. Bridge, Deck 12 is secure. The lizards are fertilizer. Suggest we sweep the remains. Negative. We're not done. Holt stared at the display, watching his tactical net tighten around the last few enemy vessels. They came to capture a human warship. Now let's give them a funeral to remember. The obsidian lance accelerated, punching through the thinning perimeter of alien wreckage like a predator through a dying herd. Every officer on the bridge held their breath. Holt's voice remained steady. Target remaining command vessels. Precision strikes. Remind them why humanity survived death worlds long before they walked upright. The black ship surged forward into the wreckage field, the next kill already locked. Holt didn't blink. The lance slid into the heart of the wreckage field like a silent predator. Kovith's ships twisted in unnatural orbits, some venting atmosphere and bodies into the void. Holt stood impassive, watching the Empire's finest collapse under the weight of illusion and precision strikes. Liang's voice trembled slightly. Commander, remaining enemy fleet has regrouped near the Maw anomaly. Estimated 5 dreadnoughts, 7 cruisers, multiple escorts. Desperation. Holt's tone was sharp steel. They're pulling back to the one place they think we won't follow. Ensign Patel swallowed hard. The Maw, sir? No ship survives entry. No Kovith ship survives entry. Holt corrected grimly. Set course. The Maw dominated the main screen, a swirling mass of black gravity rifts stitched with flickering arcs of quantum lightning. Ancient wreckage spun endlessly in violent, slow decay. A graveyard of civilizations. A priority transmission burst onto the comms. Vorinx, bleeding and furious, filled the display. You have no idea what you're walking into, human. The Maw devours everything. You'll be atomized with us. Holt clasped his hands behind his back. We've been atomized before. We're used to it. The lance surged forward, engines burning cold blue as it breached the event horizon edge. Internal compensators strained violently. Systems flickered. Lights dimmed. Status, Holt barked. Structural integrity holding, Patel answered. Quantum stabilizers fluctuating at safe parameters. Kovith ships entering the anomaly. They think we won't risk pursuit. They still don't understand. Holt smiled thinly. We never cared about surviving this sector. Inside the anomaly, sensors went wild. Space twisted, folding in and out of itself. Kovith ships fired blind, their targeting useless against the decoy echoes cast by the Lance's drones. Sir, energy readings at Grid 4 Delta. Something massive is activating. Holt's eyes narrowed. There it is. A monstrous silhouette emerged from the depths. Not Kovith. Not human. Older. Unfathomable. A weapon built by something ancient and forgotten. It pulsed ominously, veins of shifting blue fire threading along its frame. Ancient Expanse weapon, Liang whispered. No record exists of its design. The legends were real. Vorinx appeared again, desperation replacing arrogance. You don't know what you've awakened, Terran. We sealed it for a reason. It will annihilate everything. That was the plan. Holt murmured. You see a threat. I see an opportunity. He turned sharply to Tactical. Patch our command signal into the weapon's harmonic relay. Override the dormant security grid. I want control now. Patel's hands flew over the console, sweat beading his brow. Attempting synchronization, frequencies shifting, lock achieved. The weapon's core brightened into a violent, blinding cascade. Its dormant limbs unfolded like the wings of some apocalyptic predator. Liam gasped. Sir, we've slaved it to the Lance's command protocols. Vorinx's voice howled over the comms. You'll destroy everything. You're insane. Holt's expression hardened. No. I'm human. The ancient construct surged to life. Beams of pure gravitational shear sliced outward, lancing into the remaining Kovith vessels. The Dominion ships crumpled as spacetime bent, snapping their frames like twigs. 2 dreadnoughts twisted in half. Cruisers disintegrated under energy wave impacts. Escape pods atomized before they cleared the hulls. Vessel count? Holt demanded. 4 remaining. Barely operational. Leave them. Holt stepped closer to the screen. They'll tell the story better than wreckage will. Liam shook her head, stunned. Sir, you just ended the most powerful fleet the Kovith Dominion has ever assembled, with a myth. Holt stared unblinking at the devastation. That's the problem with myths. Sometimes they wake up angry. The Maw's gravitational turbulence surged as the weapon began to destabilize. Patel's voice was tight with panic. Sir, the core is going critical. Collapse in 2 minutes. Full power to engines. Plot us the narrowest escape vector. We ride the edge out. The lance bucked violently as space folded around it, gravitational storms tearing at the hull plating. Structural warnings screamed from every console. 30 seconds. Maddox's voice came over internal channels, calm as ever. So, boss, just to confirm, you woke up an ancient galaxy killer, used it to massacre an Empire's fleet, and now we're surfing a black hole to escape. Holt's lips twitched slightly. You forgot the part where I did it on purpose. Copy that. I love this job. The lance punched through the collapsing rift just as the Expanse weapon detonated in a blinding implosion of energy and gravity. Behind them, the remains of the Koveth fleet vanished into the singularity. Silence fell on the bridge. Slowly, the stars returned, peaceful and cold as ever. Patel exhaled shakily. Sector clear. No pursuit. No remaining Koveth signals. Holt stared into the endless black. We didn't just break their fleet. We broke their mind. Sir? They'll never know how many ships we had. How much tech we possessed. Whether we survived. The Dominion will waste generations preparing for an enemy that isn't there. Leung whispered, awed. You made humanity into a ghost story. Good. Holt folded his arms. Let them fear the dark. Let them wonder when we'll come back. The obsidian lance turned silently and vanished into slip space, leaving nothing but legends in its wake. The bridge lights glowed dim against the backdrop of stars. The crew worked in strained silence, eyes darting across tactical readouts. The obsidian lance cruised just outside normal sensor range, stalking the battered remnants of the Koveth Dominion fleet. Holt stood unmoving, arms crossed behind his back, gaze locked on the flickering image of the last Koveth command ship, the Imperator's Wrath. Leung's voice was soft but urgent. Commander, they've initiated full distress calls to the Dominion homeworlds. Long-range scans suggest another task force is en route. Holt nodded slowly. They're scared. Good. Fear clouds judgment. An incoming signal burst onto the comms, harsh and static-filled. Admiral Vorinx appeared bruised, armor-scorched, the pride beaten from his reptilian features. Terran abomination, you've committed genocide against our fleet. You've defiled the sacred expanse. You've earned nothing but extinction. Holt answered coolly. Extinction? We invented it. Vorinx's voice rose to a desperate snarl. You cannot survive. My Marines are already aboard your vessel. Holt smiled thinly. So they are. Below decks, alarms blared. Hatches burst open. Koveth assault teams poured through, plasma weapons blazing. They were met instantly by Maddox and his team. Shotguns barked in staccato fury. Blades flashed in close combat. The corridor became a slaughterhouse. Maddox roared as he swung the stock of his weapon into the face of a charging Koveth officer. You stupid scaled freaks just don't learn! The alien crumpled. Another lunged. Maddox sidestepped and buried a combat knife deep between the overlapping plates of its armor. Blood hissed onto the deck. Bridge, this is Maddox, he growled. They're inside. Heavy resistance on deck 5. Recommend we make this real messy. Do it, Holt said without hesitation. Maddox grinned savagely. My pleasure. The Marines switched tactics instantly. Grenades rolled into doorways. Thermite charges melted bulkheads to trap invaders in lethal kill boxes. The Koveth assault teams realized too late they'd been funneled into a meat grinder. On the bridge, Holt kept his gaze locked on Vorinx's snarling face. You can send them all, Admiral. You can bleed your empire dry trying to take this ship. It won't change what comes next. Vorinx's scales flushed violently. We will break you. No. Holt stepped closer, voice dropping to a lethal whisper. You came to take us. Instead, we took your future. The channel cut abruptly as Leung reported. Sir, enemy Marines neutralized. No survivors. Holt nodded once. Prepare boarding torpedoes. We're finishing this. Patel's eyes widened. Sir, you want to board them? Holt's stare never wavered. Yes. They've forgotten the most important human lesson of war. Liang's voice caught slightly. Which is, sir, we don't always win by standing back. Sometimes we win by stepping forward and punching harder. Moments later, the torpedoes launched silently, streaking through the void and slamming into the hull of the Imperator's Wrath. Explosive bolts breached the decks. Human marines flooded inside like a tide of death. Maddox led the charge. His boots echoed over the metal deck as the first Kovath defenders rushed into view. His shotgun exploded one into a cloud of bone and sinew. Another fell with a knife through its eye socket. The human assault force advanced room by room, methodical, relentless. Kovath resistance shattered under the sheer ferocity. Their tactics, their codes, their pride meant nothing against raw Terran brutality. Maddox keyed his comms. Bridge, we're at the command deck bulkhead. They're holed up inside. Lots of teeth, sir. Breach and finish it. Holt's voice was ice. Maddox slapped 2 thermite charges onto the armored doors and stepped back. The explosive fire burned white-hot, melting the barrier into molten slag. The doors collapsed. Inside, Vorinx and his command staff stood in a last defiant line. Maddox stepped into the smoke and lowered his weapon just enough to sneer. Knock, knock! The Kovath charged. Maddox dropped the first with a clean blast to the chest. Marines swarmed forward behind him, turning the command deck into a brutal melee. Vorinx fought like a beast, slashing wildly with his plasma blade, cutting down 2 Marines before Maddox intercepted him. The 2 Titans collided with bone-cracking force. The blade hissed past Maddox's throat by millimeters. Maddox slammed the butt of his shotgun into Vorinx's face, shattering the alien's jaw. The Kovath staggered back, dazed. Maddox closed in. You talk too much. Maddox growled and drove his blade deep under the Admiral's armored chest. Vorinx gasped, claws weakly scrabbling at Maddox's armor as the life drained from his reptilian eyes. Maddox yanked the blade free and let the body drop. Bridge, target neutralized. Ship secured. On the obsidian lance, Holt let out a long breath. All units withdraw. We're done here. Liang stared at the tactical screen, at the flickering icon where the Dominion flagship had been. They'll never recover from this. They're not meant to. Holt turned slowly back to the starfield. They'll remember what happens when they challenge us. Patel's voice broke the silence. Sir, incoming fleet signatures. Large force. Too many for us to handle. Holt smiled darkly. Then we vanish. Slip space jump, random vector. Let them search the stars for ghosts. The obsidian lance pivoted effortlessly and accelerated toward the edge of the system. The enemy would arrive too late. They would find only wreckage, dead ships, and an empire's broken pride. The legend would spread. One Terran ship had come to their forbidden sector and shattered their strongest fleet. Holt stood silent as the stars blurred into streaks of light. We were never here. The obsidian lance emerged from slip space into the cold, quiet darkness of interstellar nowhere. System stabilized. The crew exhaled as one, knowing they had escaped the inferno they had created. Holt stood at the center of the bridge, watching the starfield settle into clarity. Status? Holt asked, voice as sharp as ever. Liang's reply was steady. No pursuit. No signals. No traces. We're off the grid. Good. Holt clasped his hands behind his back. Begin damage assessment. Prioritize propulsion, life support, and cloak systems. Patel's console lit with data. Minimal hull breaches. Internal casualties, 12 Kia, 20 wounded. Holt's jaw clenched slightly. We'll honor them. They bought us this moment. A silent moment passed before Maddox's gruff voice crackled over comms. Deck security sweep complete. No stowaways. Lizard count remains 0. Understood. Stand down, combat alert. Holt's gaze remained locked on the stars. Let the crew breathe. Liang turned from her console, hesitant. Sir, we left nothing behind. There's no evidence we ever existed in that sector. That's the point, Holt said coldly. The Coveth Dominion will wake up to ruins. No fleet, no flagship, no answers. Just fear. The console beeped with a new transmission. Patel frowned. Sir, wideband galactic distress call. Patchy data. It's coming from the Coveth homeworlds. Holt motioned. Play it. The bridge speakers erupted with static-filled, panicked alien speech. Words translated in real time, layered over screams and confusion. All ships lost, no survivors, unknown human weapon, possible human invasion force imminent, defensive protocol Omicron Red, secure all borders, warn the Council, warn everyone. The channel died in static. Leung whispered, wide-eyed. They think we're invading. Holt smiled cold and sharp. They should. Patel looked up slowly. Commander, the Council will react. They'll mobilize every species under their banner to hunt us. They'll believe humanity has godlike weapons and an unstoppable fleet. Holt nodded. And the best part? Patel hesitated. There is no fleet. Holt's grin was razor-thin. There never was. The bridge fell silent at the weight of what they had done. Holt finally spoke again, softer, more reflective. One ship. One crew. One mission. We walked into their forbidden space, shattered their mightiest fleet, destroyed their command structure, killed their most decorated admiral, and escaped clean. They will spend centuries preparing for a second wave that isn't coming. Maddox chimed in, half laughing, half growling. We're officially the biggest ghost story the galaxy's ever told. Exactly. Holt's voice hardened. We don't need domination. We don't need territory. We don't need to conquer. We only needed to remind them what happens when you threaten Earth. Patel stared. You've weaponized their own paranoia. Holt nodded. Fear is a currency. We just became the richest species in the galaxy. An alert flickered. Leung checked her display. Sir, encrypted message from Earth Command. Tight beam. No traceable path. Put it through. The voice of Admiral Reyes filled the bridge, cold and clinical. Lance, confirm mission status. Holt responded evenly. Objective complete. All targets neutralized. No traceable evidence left behind. Returning to safe zone for debrief and extraction. Reyes paused. Intel reports the Coveth Dominion has declared total emergency. They've quarantined 6 sectors, recalled all fleets, and begun fortifying their homeworlds. Estimated cost to their economy, catastrophic. They believe they were attacked by an entire Terran armada. Good, Holt said without hesitation. Reyes continued. Earth Coalition Command formally acknowledges the completion of Operation Wraith. You've redefined asymmetric warfare, Commander. Return home. Debrief team awaiting. Earth out. The channel cut. Silence again. The crew stared at Holt. Maddox broke the quiet. Operation Wraith? Holt shrugged slightly. I never liked the name. Sounds dramatic. Leung turned fully to him. Sir, the Council will be terrified of us now. The Dominion might never recover. We just became the nightmare children of the galaxy. Holt's eyes darkened as he stared into the distant stars. We didn't become the nightmare. His voice dropped to a whisper. We always were. The obsidian lance adjusted course, plotting a winding, unpredictable path back toward human space. No straight lines. No patterns. As the ship's engines burned into the black, Holt stood motionless at the viewport. He knew what came next. The rumors. The panic. The myths. The galaxy would tell itself stories in hushed tones of a ghost ship that hunted empires and vanished into nothingness. They would build fleets to counter it. They would waste untold resources chasing phantoms. They would wonder when the humans would return. They would never know that they had faced a single ship. That was the true victory. Holt tapped his comm. All hands, prepare for silent running. We disappear now. The lights dimmed. The obsidian lance became a shadow once more, slipping into the cold dark between the stars. Maddox's voice broke the stillness one last time. Commander? Yes? Next time we do something this crazy, you're buying the drinks. Holt chuckled, low and humorless. Deal. The crew returned to their stations. Silent. Efficient. Unseen. Unheard. The legend had begun. The ship vanished into the void.